I took time to release these next two videos with CG Kid. We actually filmed these videos here in my truck. When he had went through his challenges that he went through. A lot of people don't realize that Philip and I are actually best friends. Philip ended up staying with me for a while when he was going through all of this. And he's one of my real life best friends. And I'm blessed to have a friend like this in my life who's been able to be there for me, and I've been able to be there for him when we needed it most. And one of the things that we decided to do was actually sit in my truck, and we talked for about 45 minutes about addiction, depression, relapse, all of this stuff, just to have that realness of like what it's like for two friends to sit in a truck and just talk about it how it is. And I enjoyed doing these. Again, I wanted to hold off on this until he had a chance to share his relapse story, because he does talk about his relapse a little bit in this. And it wasn't my place to share. That's his story, and I'm proud of my friend. I'm proud for what he's been through and what he's fought through. Every time he's in California, I love it that he stays at my house. And you know what? Doing this was just a joy. We even did some TikToks afterwards, and it got him even on TikTok. So here's, CG Kid and I just talking about like what it's like to go through addiction, what it's like to go through relapse, and what it's like to have friendship and so forth. I mean, if you haven't clicked that like and subscribe button, hit that like and subscribe button. Love to have you along for the journey.
I don't think I knew what a true friendship was. Because you either have like drug users or evangelists, recovery evangelists, or like your family telling you how sick you are and how you need to get help. It's like no real human connection.
And you don't fucking believe them. You're like, yeah, shut the fuck up. You don't know what you're talking about.
They have a point, but it's like you're always seen as a sick person.
Yeah.
And like you don't really have that friend that's not using you for anything or not trying to make you feel sick.
That's the weirdest thing. Like, I don't know if you had it where you sobered up, where you weren't used to people not using you.
It's weird. It's different.
Like, because it's something that even now I take a lot of time to try and get used to, because like I'm not used to it. I'm used to people like, what are you gonna do for me? You know what I mean? Like the friendly drug dealer. Like my drug dealers were all my friends. They were all cool people. Yeah, bullshit. You know, they were my friends. They would have been like, dude, I'm not selling you this shit. You know, but you'd be like, oh yeah, that's my bro over there. That's my boy.
The gas people.
They just wanted shit from you, and that's the part that sucked.
I'm glad you got out of it.
I'm glad you did too, dude, because
we're messed up sober. Imagine what we were like when we were using.
No shit, dude. Our brains are... do you think that we like fuck our brains up after we get sober and we've done so much drug use?
Yeah, I mean, the neural pathways to produce dopamine, norepinephrine, serotonin, oxytocin, a lot of these neural pathways are obstructed, so you can't just... It's hard to love yourself internally. That's how I feel. You have to have something you're passionate about and human connection to be able to love yourself. You can't just do it without those things. Like if you're just isolated and you're not doing anything you're passionate about, I think normal people can kind of be okay, but I think we lose our shit.
I think we do.
I think everybody gets depressed. It's just like for us, it's like we go back to drugs.
Right.
It's like a permanent imprint where we know like that's a solution. Our brains know that. Like we know that
it's that permanent. It's that solution that's always like back there that you know you could default to.
Yeah, and your brain knows. Even if like I know it's bad as like a conscious being, but my brain thinks of it as what it needs. So there's like this kind of fight between you and your brain. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean because there's even studies with dopamine and like depression and stuff. I mean, do you ever find yourself with just like waves of depression, like ups and downs, like throughout the day?
Early in sobriety, yeah. Not now.
See, and that's the part that I always find like really fascinating, because like people, I think the closest that if somebody's not like, again, not a doctor or any of that shit, but like, because MDD hits you in waves, like that's how it is. And like the only way I can get some people to relate are addicts that were in early recovery, where we talk always about like my anxiety hit really hard and all of a sudden I was like vomiting and I didn't want to leave the house. Then 30 minutes later I was fine all of a sudden. Or like I was out, like the kids playing basketball and it was fun for like 30, 40 minutes, and all of a sudden I got really depressed. I just had to sit down, like I didn't want to be there. Like you have those waves.
Yeah, I had the waves whenever I should say earlier in recovery, because like recovery, I said loving yourself internally is hard without passion or human connection. When I'm socially connected and I'm passionate, I'm able to be more calm regularly, because otherwise my happiness gets based around the external world. And I think like drugs, like part of the recovery process is physiologically your brain is used to depending on something externally.
Right.
So I think that's why with sobriety and recovery, eventually it's like my mood gets more stabilized. Like when YouTube made me happy, for example, that's like a roller coaster because it's unpredictable. Right. Like the external world is like a roller coaster. Even if friends make me happy, like friends come and go, friends screw you over. That's that up down thing I've noticed. And I know some things just stop working even if they don't go away, or they don't screw you over.
They do. I mean, and then you even notice how your like relationships change, even too. You know, like if you're in an intimate relationship or even your family relationships. Like when I'm sober, I'm way closer with like even my mom and my brother and my nieces and stuff than when I'm using. Like nobody's in my life.
It's so depressing. And
it really is. And at the time though, you think it's like I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. Like I never wanted it to stop. You know, when I go, I mean, I would laugh at people before meetings when I would see them because I was so fucked up buying shit from fucking Taco Bell, buying $50 worth of fucking food from Taco Bell that I'm gonna go eat, blown out of my fucking brains, laughing at people who are trying to get sober, being like, dude, if they only knew how good it could be, like my life is awesome, but like at the same time, there's even a side of me, like you had asked, like had I ever gotten like pulled over, I wanted to get pulled over by the cops. I wanted to get fucking busted because there was always that side of me that wanted to get sober and I didn't know how to. You know, because I knew what I was doing was fucked up, and I wanted to get sober so bad.
See, this last time around, I just wanted to not be depressed. It was different. Like I was sober and I was fine not using. I was just so miserable, and I just wanted to be happy. So.
That's what I think I used alcohol. Like Coke wasn't one of those like numbing agents. Coke was like I'm gonna live life to the max things like in my brain type deal. Like the rich man's drug. Like, hey, if I'm gonna party, I'm gonna do it right. I used alcohol though because I thought it made me happier, it made me more talkative, it kept me out of my brain, and people wanted to be around me more than if I was fun to talk to, and then it just fucking flipped. Fucking sideways. It went downhill real quick.
You like this puff ball?
You like the puff ball? Ooh. Pet the ball.
Looks like a nut, a gorilla nut.
Dude, I'd never ever, like my wildest dream, I ever thought like I'd be sitting in my truck talking to anybody about like actually sobriety.
Yeah, it's cool, man. I like it.
And I actually never thought that I'd actually like really actually meet friends either.
After hearing your story with your crazy experiences, I never would have thought you would have survived back then.
Well, that's even the thing, like with Coke, and that's why I even done videos on like the stigma around Coke, because it's like, you know, a lot of drug addicts are like, oh, it was only Coke, you know, like no, I wasn't sucking somebody's dick to get a fucking 8-ball.
Coke actually is easier to overdose than any other stimulant.
And that's why I'm surprised that like I haven't had a heart attack and didn't have one.
I don't know why, but it's also known as one of the most addictive drugs, like scientifically, even though meth raises dopamine more. I noticed when I interview people that had a Coke problem, it seems like their stories are really dark.
It's dark, it's twisted, it's kind of like,
I think that the reason Coke's not that addictive is people simply can't afford it.
I think that's part of it, or you even like even from an addict standpoint, the side that I could see is eventually you can't afford it, but you still want that high, you still want that numbness, you still want that good time, so you start looking for the next best thing. I mean, I'd be curious to see if there's a lot of Coke addicts that then eventually just switch over to like meth, because you know how like heroin,
meth is cheaper.
Yeah, exactly. And you know how like opiate addicts, like if you can't get your pills and stuff, they usually will switch over to heroin because heroin is cheaper than buying pills. So I'm always curious to see if there's like a connection where, because even like with me, I like to snort stuff. Well, you could get away snorting meth, and then eventually, yeah, you'd probably get to smoking it and all the other shit. But like, is there like, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper than fucking Coke is.
It is.
You know, so I mean, I always wondered how much of a connection is there from Coke addicts switching to meth, like opiate addicts switching to heroin.
Commonly.
Do you?
It's common, yeah.
Because I mean, that's something that probably at one point I would have been able to then justify myself doing, is switching to meth. because if I couldn't afford the coke. But that was the shitty thing about the career I was in. Like, I would have given up everything I had to live in out of my fucking car if I had to make as much money as I possibly could to still buy my coke. And I'd like, this was a truck that I drank in all the time. I mean, my center console, like this whole thing underneath here was packed. All the little side compartment things were packed, overflowing with fucking shooters. There's fucking bottles all in the, I like, literally, if you would have got in my car before, you'd have been like, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And people did.
I said, what's wrong with you?
This right here was overflowing with fucking little shooters. I mean, I don't get how, like, a cop didn't walk by here and go, okay, I'm gonna park my ass, like, right over there, wait till this motherfucker starts up his vehicle, because he's probably fucked up.
Yeah.
But nobody ever did.
That's crazy, man. I'm glad you're alive.
No, same here. That's why it's funny, because we both are addicted to nicotine, and then you get these people who are like, I wish you would quit smoking or vaping or whatever. And it's like, dude, if you only knew the other shit that I did, like, don't get me wrong, this shit's bad. It'll eventually kill you. It's proven. But I wouldn't be alive right now if I was still on coke.
Yeah, I see. Like, for me, like, quitting fast food's more of a priority.
Yeah.
You know, like all the chemicals they put in that.
Right.
I don't know. Like, nicotine's not really that high up on the list. I would get more into eating healthy first. That's more of a priority for me.
That's becoming one of mine now, is going back to the whole, just with everything that's happened right now, even recently. Just getting myself back to being healthy.
Yeah.
That's all I really want, is my health back.
I have other addictions that are worse than vaping. They don't see, like, our whole lives. They just see the smoking.
Right.
I think they would, like, and they show concern. It's cool. I appreciate it. But it's like, at the same time, you know, it's my deal, you know?
Right. And it's hard to share even too.
Even when I see alcoholics, I don't encourage them to stop drinking.
Right.
I'll just say, you know, I'll let them know if they want to talk, I'm there. And I'll be their friend, but I'm not going to try to get between them and their addiction. And
even then, you don't, you know, I mean, I've seen people where they go out and you're going to have that one binge night or whatever, and it's not an everyday occurrence. And it's like, I'm not there to, you can't judge them.
Yeah, I mean, I hope they stop drinking. There's a difference between hoping and, like, trying to do it for them.
Well, as soon as you start, like, taking bottles and shit away from them or trying to cut them off,
that's crazy.
it just, all it does is, like, get that resentment, and you're like, fuck you, dude. Like, I'll go somewhere else and buy it. Like, that's what I always did whenever anybody was like, well, you can't drink anymore, or you can't drink here. Well, fuck you, dude. I'm gonna find there's a fucking liquor store over there. Guess what? I ran out of cigarettes. I need to go there real quick and get some cigarettes. And now I'm in the fucking parking lot over there getting fucking hammered. Like, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
You just piss somebody off.
Let's get between them and their addiction. It's like oil hurts the earth, and imagine if I were to say you can't drive a car.
Right.
And then, like, people don't understand that. Yeah, that might sound confusing and extreme, but to an alcoholic, alcohol is more important than even transportation. So it's like you're getting between something stronger.
Right.
You know, and that's like, if somebody said you can't drive a car because you're hurting the earth, what would the average person's reaction be? Fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it is. It's
I do what I want. I put carbon monoxide in the atmosphere.
Right.
And I don't blame, like, anybody who drives gas. It's just an analogy, because I feel like people look at an alcoholic, they're like, how can you do that to your body? But, like, look what society is doing to the earth with consumerism and burning oil. It's not. I think society is afraid to look at addicts because it's almost like they have to look at themselves.
Right.
You know.
No, you do, and it's super.
I never get in between an addict and a drug. I'll show concern. That's about as far as I go.
I mean, I do get excited when people do finally reach out and they've hit that point where they're like, "Will you help me? Like, what do I do? Here's what I've tried. Here's what hasn't worked. Like, I need help. Like, I know I need help, and I'm asking for help." Then it's like, okay, like here's what I did, you know. And even then, you can't force them because their sobriety's all different. You know, and all you can do is keep rooting them on to find what works for them.
Yeah, somebody want to help me quit nicotine, the best thing you can do is just be a friend.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Like, I'll reach out to them if I'm, like, thinking about quitting, and then the dialogue is open. But it's so weird when somebody else tries to open the dialogue for you and not empower you to open it up to them. Like, that's confusing to me.
No, same here.
You know what I mean? Because, like, if you're opening up the dialogue, then you're taking my power away. I'm supposed to feel proud of myself for bringing it up to you, not forced to.
Right.
It's like, where's like, all right, you bring it up and now I talk to you about it. Well, now you feel like you saved a life and I don't feel like I saved myself at all.
Well, even for me, like the relapse. So I relapsed on Christmas back in like 2000. I think it was 16. It was my relapse. And the reason I call it a relapse is in September, I got sober. But the reason I got sober and quit drinking was my wife looked at me and was like, "You're getting really fat, and you need to stop drinking." And was like really firm and hard on it. And so I quit. But it wasn't like I quit for like me. Here's my wife telling me I'm fat. Here I can't really fit in my clothes. Okay, you know, I'll stop. And literally the whole time I had stopped, in my head, all I kept thinking to myself was, yeah, once you can fit in those other pants and stuff, and your wife stops bitching about this, then just I can go back to drinking. And I was sober for probably about 90 days. And I remember that when I relapsed, I mean, it was literally off of a couple sips of beer. Like a couple sips of beer, that's all I had the night that I started drinking again. But by the end of like the next week, I was back to drinking a fifth, and then it escalated more, and then it escalated more each day. But like the disgust in her face of like even seeing me drinking, and it was like, dude, fuck you. Like I quit because I was trying to get thin, and you wanted me to. And it was such the wrong attitude to have. But I wasn't ready.
Staying sober is about loving yourself. And if you're doing it for another person, you're not doing it for yourself. The action of staying sober is not really self-loving. It really is more like codependent. It's like needing that person to not feel alone.
Right.
In my opinion.
I agree, and it's also that feeling of like when I quit this time through, I mean, I was drunk off my ass. Like I'm going through this massive collapse with being fired and everything. I knew that my wife had kind of remotely caught me cheating on her. She had her suspicions. I got fired from my job. We're in the middle of this huge fight. And in between that fight, I had a fifth of vodka in the car, in my truck actually. It was in the carport. And I had a couple Diet Dr. Pepper bottles with Dr. Pepper in it. So I would drink some of the Dr. Peppers, run back out here, pour in. So I'm literally getting fucked up during our fight. And she didn't know it. Like I'd be like, fuck this, dude. Fuck this. I'm taking a quick fucking walk. Fuck, I gotta cool the fuck down. And it was my excuse to like get out of our condo. I'd run down here to the truck in the carport, slam some of the Dr. Pepper out, pour, this much fucking vodka into it. I mean, I went through the whole fifth that night. And I was already fucked up when the fight started. Screw that back on, and they're all like, I had like 4 full ones. So I like my brain's going, oh, she can't tell that I'm swapping out the bottles. So like she would think it was the same one the whole time. And then I'd go back up, and I was still drinking the whole time. And I mean, she's throwing fucking knives at me and shit. But what ended up doing it for me is that night, finally, she would try to kick me out of the house. But then decided to keep me there because she was afraid I was going to go get more fucked up and drive around and stuff. And I remember I crawled into bed and I just started crying. Like she was already asleep, and I just started crying. And I'm like reflecting on my life, drunk person, fucking ugly, crying, sobbing in fucking bed. Like, dude, I've been up and down this like every 3-4 years this has happened in my life, Fuck, and then it was like, I had like a moment of clarity, and I'm like, every time this has happened, this is why. And I'm like, if I wanted to stop, I have to stop this shit.
Yeah.
And so then I stopped.
That was it. Me, I just got so depressed that it was either I stop living the way I'm living or I die. I was like that depressed.
Dude, Philip, if you watch this, man, I love you, brother. I really do, man. You're one of my best friends out there. And, down below are links even to everything that is from CG Kids channel to the nonprofit that I formed, Driven Together. It bridges the gap between a crisis hotline and therapy, of sharing tools, experiences, and resources that we've been through, because life is trial and error. I mean, down below I have links to BetterHelp. I mean, if you want to try it, it's trial and error to find out what works for you. It's taking time and working on you. I have links down below to Amazon affiliate links of fidget cubes, fidget spinners, things that I use for my anxiety when it's starting to act up, just to have healthy coping mechanisms, because the more that we share our experiences, tools, and what we've been through, nobody goes through life alone, and we don't feel alone. So click that like and subscribe button. Comment down below. I'd love to have you along for the journey, because you know what? You're a BAMF. You're a badass motherfucker. You've been through 100% of your worst days to make it through 2 today. And you know what? Together we got this. It's a us thing. It's a we thing. It's a together thing. And we do have this. Us.